I haven't really been vulnerable publicly with this sort of stuff before. Within the space of a week or a week and a half, my vision just went from night and day to it just started getting black. Like I can't see out of my eye anymore. They thought that I had like stage 4 cancer. Like my body was presenting the same issues as stage 4 cancer. I really wasn't doing a great deal to look after myself, and caught up with my neurologist, and I could tell it was the first time he'd looked at the results too, but I don't think I've seen this before. He's like, they'd either significantly reduced in size or some he couldn't even find, like they were just missing. And he's like, that's not medically possible. Like I'd fully like saturated my brain with oxygen through the breathwork. I just started feeling almost like superhuman.
I do finish Good Humans podcast with the same question for everyone. So what does being a good human mean to Mikel Nyholt?
What does good human mean?
What's going on, you good humans? Welcome to guest episode 223 of Good Humans podcast with a very, very special man by the name of Mikel Nyholt. And far out, this guy has a serious story when it comes to overcoming health challenges and really questioning and being curious and following his intuition when it came to a diagnosis from the doctors when he was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis or MS in his mid-20s. His life basically fell apart, but he held it together. He had a kid about 6 months later. He had his house that he'd just bought fall through with the payment, or something weird happened. You're going to hear all about it in the episode. But then he stayed resilient. He got told he needed to be on these crazy medications every month for the rest of his life. But he thought something else needed to be done. And then he discovered breathwork. He discovered a few holistic practices, and now he's in remission. It is crazy to see what his life has become ever since that moment. And yeah, really taking on health and wellness. He's a really high up businessman in the executive suite in Usher Group, which is a $100 million plus revenue business when it comes to painting and services in the construction industry. A great friend of mine, Theo, actually owns that. I'm going to get him on the podcast soon. But Mikel's story is just insane. He came to my book launch recently. He's been inspired by my work. And I was like, let's just catch up and do a podcast episode because your story is insane. And I know there's going to be people listening who have maybe been given a health diagnosis that just didn't feel right, or they've been given no hope, and he's just shown you that maybe not everything's going to work for everyone, but there's usually something out there that might help you on your health journey if you are going through some challenges. And I think a lot of you are going to relate to this episode because his health challenges really came from burnout at work, from working so hard to try and support his family that he just didn't take care of his health. And yeah, his turnaround has just been insane. He's more productive, more, present with his family, friends, and his life is just far better, even after this debilitating disease that he was diagnosed with. So make sure you tune into the whole episode. If you do enjoy it, make sure you give us a 5-star rating, share it with your friends, share it with your family, share it with somebody who you think might get some benefit from it, because I know I really enjoyed this conversation and got so many benefits from it, and I'm sure you guys will as well. Also, I'm sure many of you are aware, but I have just released a book, The 1% Good Club, which is all about giving 14 minutes a day to your mental health. That's 1% of your day, which we should all be having as our baseline for our mental health. So if you want to learn a bit more about my journey, you want to learn the science of these habits and how you can start to integrate them today into your life to improve your mental health, then head to thegoodhumanfactory.com. In the shop section, the book's there. Every copy on my website will be signed by me, so you're going to get a signed copy if you grab one on my website. You can also grab one on Amazon or Booktopia if you want. You can also grab one if you're a bookstore lover at QBD, at Dimmicks, at any airport. It is everywhere right now, so go grab some copies so they go off the shelf so they don't get sent back to the bookstores. Back to my publisher, because I want to see this book into so many people's hands and improving so many people's lives. Thanks for tuning into this episode. Make sure you hit the like or subscribe button, give us a 5-star rating, leave us a little review. All of that stuff really helps, and yeah, we'd be so appreciative. Let's do it. Welcome to Good Humans Podcast, Mikel Nyholt. Welcome to Good Humans Podcast, Mikel Nyholt. How you going, brother?
I'm good, Cooper. How are you, mate?
I'm very well, thank you. Thanks for coming over to my little place this morning. It's a beautiful day here on the Gold Coast, blue skies outside, and very excited to have a chat about your story. We caught up and met through a good friend of mine, Theo, who owns Usher Group, where you work, and I did a workshop there, and we had a bit of a chat after, and you're like, can we grab a coffee? And I'd love to share a bit about my story with you. And I was like, yeah, of course. So we grabbed a coffee in Burley. It would have been over a year ago now.
It would be, yeah.
It was a while ago. And I said to you, like, man, you've got the craziest story, from health challenges to, business success to, family things that I'm sure we'll go into in today's episode. And we've been talking about doing this podcast for a while, and you came to my book launch last week, and you're like, you still came to the potty? And I was like, absolutely, let's get it done. So here we are. It's great to be finally doing this. So I always open with the same question. So what are you grateful for right now, today in life?
Today in life right now, I'd say probably the highlight of that would be being here, mate. I think it's a wonderful opportunity. I love the work that you're doing out there in the space at the moment, and I think it's so important. And I think to be able to share space with you and to be able to bring more attention, more awareness to mental health and well-being, I think it's a special thing. So just grateful to be here.
Oh man, it's going to be a really cool chat because your story's going to help a lot of people. You can sort of relax into it. We'll be here for an hour or so. So excited to go through your journey. I want to, before we go into it, maybe do you want to explain to the audience a bit about who you are and what you do? Just sort of a couple minutes just to explain a bit more about what they're going to get throughout this episode and understand what we're going to catch up to with the work you're doing now. And then we'll go back to the start and work our way back forward. Sounds
like fun. So quick snapshot of me. I'm a proud father, proud husband. I've got a 8-year-old boy, and it's definitely the best thing I can do is be a dad. Absolutely love that role. But I guess in a day job, I attach myself to the Usher Group, which is what you talked about before, which is a specialised trade services company. It's grown quite well here in Southeast Queensland, but we do work nationally. But core services include painting, signage, access, ongoing maintenance. And if you were on the Gold Coast and you look at any of sort of the major towers and things that are going on right now with the big tower cranes, we're on just about all of those key jobs. But employing over 500 staff, turning over, roughly about $100 million a year. So it keeps us all very busy. It's a great business. So really fortunate. I've been 9 years this year with the organisation, and just super grateful for Theo and for that business as well, because they've allowed me the opportunity to grow as an individual, both professionally and personally. And I think just about every year, my level of responsibility or title or things have changed with that. And I'm not someone who's been chasing it as such, but I have, right from day one, I sort of said to Theo, I'm the kind of person that I love to challenge myself and I love to look for opportunities to grow. So as long as they keep providing me those opportunities, I'll hang around. And I sort of, I'm the kind of guy that if I feel like I've got a ceiling on top of me, then that's when I start to look sideways and go, I feel like I've maxed out what I can learn in this environment. And thankfully with Usher, they continue to just throw more and more challenges. And now looking after all the sales, marketing, culture for the business, and sit on their board with 4 others. And day to day, it's myself and the CEO that's sort of running the business day to day. And it's full of challenges, but just love the people, love the culture. We're very unique in that sense too, which we'll probably touch on a bit of it today. But a lot of my personal health and well-being is actually tied to my employer, which is funny to say. I don't think many people have the ability to say that, but it's pretty cool. Yeah, Theo's such a good man. The whole organisation at Usher Group is so cool with, the surf comp they do here on the Gold Coast, which I've been involved in over the last few years, getting to compete in it for North Narrabeen many years, and now being, I'm not a charity, and Theo, and they make it very clear that the charity partners, I'm kind of the one little asterisk where they give me some funding so I can go and deliver my workshops for free at schools, which has been so cool to be involved in that. And then I've done a workshop up at Usher, which was you weren't there that day, huh? Or you were? No, I was there.
Oh,
no.
There.
Yep.
You were there.
Yep.
So I did that a couple of years ago. We'll get me in there again soon, which is really exciting. And I love what Theo's done there. He did a TED talk a couple years ago all about like values and culture, and it's so cool to see. Anyone who knows Theo is a legend. I'll get him on the podcast soon, hopefully. He's such a beautiful guy and such a big supporter of everything I've done. So shout out to Usher Group, and really excited to get to know your journey and how you've got there, and the things that you guys are up to now. But I think what the main part of your story that people are really going to get a lot out of as we go through today's chat is your health issues, but then also looking for outside the box and not really always listening to negative, things that come from doctors to then overcome challenges. So we're going to catch up with that part of your story, but I know you're big on health and wellness. You have a lot of practices that you do every single day. And I've got a new question that I just started last week with a guest. And obviously I've just written my book. You came to my book launch, the 1% Good Club, and it's all about giving 14 minutes a day to your mental health. So I'm beginning to ask all of my guests, if you were only allowed to spend 14 minutes a day doing something that is positive for your mental health in your sort of range of different things that you do, what would you try and fill your 14 minutes with every day? It's a great question. Thankfully, I get more than 14 minutes, but if I only had 14 minutes, I'd probably say my most sort of sacred practice for mental health is breathwork. And because within that breathwork sort of session that I do, I
it's a lot of really getting in deep into your own mindset and thoughts. It's sort of like a meditative practice as such, which was very foreign to me. Go back, 8+ years ago. I definitely wasn't one of those people that was in that zone. But yeah, now I think if I could only do 14 minutes, I would probably push myself to do a bit of breath work, which then leads into all other areas that really help me with my own mental health.
I love that. I totally agree. I did a 14-minute breath work meditation sort of combo this morning. I love sort of charging up with a bit of breath work and then just letting the body and mind relax for a few minutes after it to integrate that breath work, and then you go on with your day. So I love that. I'm really intrigued to see what all the guests will start saying. Like I had yesterday was meditation. I mean, from a fitness coach, I was like, you can't say work it out.
Yep.
And he was like, I just need to sit with my thoughts for 10 minutes a day, no music, no nothing, no distractions. And that's just what I need to sort of clear the mind. And I was like, yeah, I agree. And then breath work is another thing that I do. So 2 from 2 habits that I absolutely love as well. Let's get to know your story, man. It's pretty wild. You've gone through some serious challenges, some serious ups and downs, but you're here now, you're thriving, you've got your young family. Let's get to know the story. Take me back to the start. Where'd you grow up? What was life like as a kid? What'd you learn, through your childhood that shaped you to be the sort of man you are today?
So many different avenues to go down, and it feels funny because I haven't really been vulnerable publicly with this sort of stuff before, and I think a lot of close family and even friends and colleagues probably wouldn't have too much knowledge of what I'm about to share, I guess, from a health-wise sort of journey. But
please only share what you're comfortable with, by the way, because this is going to go out to quite a few people. But I also know that sharing your story is going to help a lot of people as well. So anything I think don't worry about it. But anything you feel comfortable, it's going to help a lot of people.
No, I appreciate that, mate. And I think I definitely feel like it's a good time to start to share some of it, and not that it's anything crazy or super unique, but from a life standpoint, I had a pretty cool upbringing, which had its own challenges, but. Born in Canada, got a Canadian mum, a New Zealander, a Kiwi dad, who actually met in Papua New Guinea. My mum was a missionary, and my dad was running a hotel over in Papua New Guinea, and they met there. And then when they decided they were having kids, they thought it was a safer sort of environment to go back to Canada, where mum was from, and family around. So myself and my sister were born there in Canada, and had our first 5 years there. My parents owned and ran a restaurant up in Valemont, so the Rocky Mountains, which is pretty cool. And I still got tons of family over there. I just have a deep love for Canada. Yeah, yep, heaps of snow. Yep, it's got the full 4 seasons. You really notice the differences. So, yeah, maybe we started Canada, but then from there, my dad pursued a different opportunity, sold the restaurant that they had, which was quite successful, and decided that New Zealand was the next place to go. So, took our family over to New Zealand when I was 5 years old, and he was in the hotel management space, so running and managing hotels. Mm-hmm. So actually for a large part of my youth, my sister and I, we grew up living in hotels. We would live on the bottom floor, and we'd have access to all the rooms that weren't in use, and had friends over for hide and seek in the hotel. And so I always
wondered that.
Yeah, it was a bit of a
buffets for breakfast and stuff.
So had a full restaurant and everything. So it was had shows and things on the weekends. So it was definitely a unique sort of upbringing in that sense, and moved around a lot as well. So it was quite a, you move from one opportunity to the next. So I think, by the time I was 10 years old, I'd already been to 6 or 7 different schools. So it was almost a school a year. Sometimes halfway through the year, you'd move and go somewhere else. So with that I get to a lot of opportunity for perspective in different environments, which is great. But I also never had like a strong sense of belonging, because
close friends.
Yeah, sort of like every time you sort of get this unit that you're close with, you're up and start again. Yeah. And it made me quite good and adaptable to be able to just get into a new environment and find my feet. And I love sport, any kind of sport I could play. So that was kind of my avenue to go and fit in at the next place, was just join the local team or sport and get into it. So really enjoy that, and nothing to complain about there. But I guess it just underlying, it sort of had a few things for me which stemmed some other even mental health stuff of just sometimes having to put on a facade to try and fit in. You go to different places and you just go, right, who do I need to be accepted by this community or this area? Yeah. And I sort of didn't have this strong sense of self. Yeah. And so I was always wearing this mask of like, okay, how do I need to show up to get the best approval? And sometimes that meant, I got into a bad habit as a youngster of maybe over-exaggerating things to try and get more, attention or acceptance. You tell porcupines or fibs on, how successful you were with sport in different areas and things like that, and learned pretty quickly that the truth catches up with you. So thankfully I nipped that habit in the bud early, and I'm just man of complete honesty now. I think it's a real virtue of mine because of going through those experiences, seeing how it didn't play out in favour. Yeah. But yeah, I landed in Australia in the year 2000, right as the Olympics were kicking off here, and reading
like
some of
that
your
part of
story
my
yesterday.
book?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
got to that part.
How old
and
are
it
you?
was,
Do you mind me asking?
Sorry?
How old are you, if you mind me asking?
I am going to be 35.
35.
35 as of this Saturday.
89?
Yeah. 90.
90.
Yep.
Okay, nice.
Yep. So, yeah, this Saturday I'll be 35.
Nice.
And yeah, so I would have been age 10 when I came to Australia, and we lived in Sydney, got into schooling there, and that was when I sort of became a bit more vocal too with my parents. My dad went from managing hotels to selling hotels, so he was commercial real estate and was moving a lot of the big properties, and again was trying to make us move, and was trying to make us move to the Gold Coast at the time, funnily enough. And I dug my feet in as a youngster and said, I've had enough moving. I don't want to go anywhere. I've got some friends now. I just want to stay. I'm like, you guys can go. I'm going to stay here. Like, I'll just figure out a way to stay.
You're in year 7 or something.
Yeah, yep. So funnily enough, we actually all stayed as a family unit. And yeah, definitely, there's so many different avenues I can go down. But without getting too sidetracked, managed to stay in Sydney through all of my schooling years. Out at Castle Hill, sort of Kellyville area. So it's western suburbs. But yeah, and I actually went surfing for school. We used to get on the bus and go out to DY and stuff and jump on.
surf school.
Yep. So yeah, it was good fun.
I used to coach all the kids doing that.
Well, there you go. Well, you're a bit younger than me, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm a few years younger.
Yep. Would have missed the boat there.
Yeah, we just missed
That's why I'm not as good, eh?
That's it.
But yeah, got a love for the ocean, any sort of sport as well. But yeah, when I was coming through schooling, I actually started dating my now wife when she was 15. I was 16. We weren't at the same school, but met at a party. Funny enough, she actually reached out to me when I was back home in Canada for a family trip, and she'd found me on MySpace at the time, if you go back far enough.
I remember MySpace.
So, yeah, started chatting there and caught up at a party, and it's been a wild roller coaster there. So I think, we're coming up 18, 19 years together in a relationship. We've been married for 9 years as well.
Congrats.
So yeah, it's big journey there, and something that I'm so proud of that we've fought to maintain and hold on to, because I think some people that see people that are married for a long time, they think that it's just easy. It's not easy. It's intentional work all the time, and we love each other, but it's come with a lot of challenges. So yeah, met my partner, my wife, through school, and her family was going through a really tough situation. So she sort of weaved into a bit of my story, but her family had broken up. Parents had broken up. It was quite messy at the time, and her mum and sister and her thought that they needed to get away from that environment. So they decided that they were going to move to the Gold Coast, and I just graduated school. So I had been dating her for about 2 years then. Came to live with her mum and her sister here on the Gold Coast, and never looked back. Now her mum and sister went back to Sydney. We stayed here.
No way.
Then my family followed up. So now I've got all my family here, and her family's back in Sydney. So all over the shop. But I got just stuck into the workforce as soon as I finished school.
Yeah, talk me through that. What when you were finishing school, where did you think sort of life was going to go? I know you loved your AFL, and what was the end of school like for you? Yeah,
I was not someone who was very clear on what they wanted to do, but I also wasn't overly worried about it, which I'm grateful for. I didn't find the stress of school and like trying to get a really high HSC or AP at the time. But I knew I didn't want to go to university because I just didn't have a clear enough picture of where I wanted to land. Yeah. So I just thought I'm going to get myself into the workforce, contribute to the cost of living, and start figuring things out. So my first job ever was actually in swim teaching. So love for the water and teaching people. So I taught young kids how to swim, working my way up through the ranks, and got into swim coaching. So at a certain point, I was working through a lot of the major pools here on the Gold Coast and teaching some of the high performance athletes for state and nationals, and working with ones that were entry level to the Olympics and things as well. And through working in that environment, just the knack for wanting to learn more, I asked if I could learn the ropes on pool plant management, went through and did a whole bunch of courses on that for the chemicals and how to run the pools and what was in there, got my lifeguard certificate, learned all the administration, things of that. And sort of just started getting more and more responsibility in that area as well. And by the end of that sort of tenure, I was the Southern Gold Coast regional manager, looking after 7 facilities. There was 3,000. Yep, early 20s. Yep.
Early 20s. Yeah.
Yep, early to mid 20s. And so grateful for that opportunity. Great organisation that worked with both council pools and private pools, and still have really strong connections with the owners and the management there. But I did not have good self boundaries there. And I think part of me always trying to get acceptance from others from moving around, I had a really strong understanding about work ethic that I got from my dad.
Yeah.
But I did it for the approval, for the outcome that I liked getting, which was, either a promotion or more, whatever else.
Yeah,
but I just didn't know when to stop.
Yeah.
Validation, yeah. So I learned a ton in that time, but I properly burnt myself out, and I had a number of different health things that have popped up on that journey as well. So yeah, I guess to start kicking off things that have impacted me with health wise, I think to summarize it, it's all really stemmed from chronic stress.
Yeah.
And I think that and lifestyle, all these sort of factors that at the time wasn't taking responsibility for. I just sort of thought, why is this happening to me and what's going on? So I was very well known for being very injury prone, broken a lot of bones, dislocations through sport, but I was getting sick very often, even through school and everything else. Really bad glandular fever that I missed out on a lot of schooling, chronic fevers. Ended up in hospital lots of different times for lots of different reasons. Got shingles at a young age, which is, if you look up shingles, it's very much driven by chronic stress as well. And I think that was just driven by my desire to really push myself to get validation and approval and to try and climb the ranks of the employment of the corporate world. And I got to a point where I just completely burnt myself out, and I was damaging my relationship with my wife, or my partner at the time. And wasn't getting adequate time with her. I didn't have the energy or the surplus energy to invest in that relationship. So I was giving my best self to my employer and the leftovers to my partner. And it's a common story you hear a lot, so it's not like super unique.
I know that very well with the craziness of my life right now.
I can imagine.
It's an important thing to try and dedicate particular time. Like you'll see on my full potential board over there, I have communication. That's me and my partner actually spending time connecting and, getting a night away, or actually spending time together to build the relationship with also the guys of right now. We are in that crazy hustle period, but it's important not for it to take over everything.
Absolutely. And I think it's important to note that it's not always about the quantity of time, it's just the quality of the time. And I think I've learned that over time, and I sometimes need to relearn it, is that you don't have to carve out a whole half day or a weekend as such. Like sometimes it's just be present for an hour. And the impact of that is so much more significant than trying to block out a full calendar or say no to something that is important still as well. And I think it's a trap that I fell into for too long, is that I was too busy all the time. Yeah. And then
you're just getting the scraps.
Yeah, you're getting the scraps, but then the mindset sort of kicks in too, where you get this, and something I'm constantly challenging myself with, is trying to remove this sense of entitlement, that you work so hard so that you're entitled to this just downtime, or that you don't have the energy for your partner, or like they don't understand how busy you are and things like that. And it's like, if you want a healthy relationship, if you want a healthy outcome in anything in life, it doesn't matter how well justified your reason for being too busy is, you're not going to get the result you want, because your partner at the other end of it doesn't...
If you don't water the plant, it ain't going to grow.
Yep, exactly. And all the success in whatever arena you're in is not worth it, because you don't have, the thing that matters the most. The thing that you say you're sacrificing everything for, which is for your family and for your future, you're actually, you're sacrificing them for it. And it's like, well, you're not going to have anything in the end of the day. So, a lot of lessons there. But to sort of dive into it, where it really got to the crunch for me is I exited that arena after sort of burning out and having low-level health challenges. And I think that was me, like internally, I think symptoms within the body is your body trying to give you a nudge, say, hey, pay attention here. Like,
start whispering before it starts screaming, eh?
Exactly. So there was plenty of whispers going on for a while, a few tough conversations from my body, but I just kind of had this mentality of trying to be tougher and to push through, and it was like a badge of honor to just keep going when I was super tired.
Were you still like working out and eating somewhat healthy, or was it a kind of everything, or was it just like the stress management and the lack of ability to let your nervous system actually get out of that fight or flight for a little bit?
Different stages, different things. I went through a period where I was doing nothing good for my body at all, particularly in that aquatic industry, where it was like literally 7 days a week from 4 a.m. till 10 p.m, because the venues are just always on, and you're just getting phone calls and problems, and it's just like constant putting out fires, which I enjoyed the challenge, but your body's just not resting. So I wasn't physically active like I should have been. I wasn't eating and supplementing my body the right way. I really wasn't doing a great deal to look after myself. And
when you're like in your early 20s, you kind of feel like you can get away with it.
Oh, yeah. I just thought for sure I'll just keep going harder and just, so close to getting to where I wanted to be. It's like, just keep pushing. And you have this internal dialogue that, you can handle it or toughen up and keep going. And like I said, it became a badge of honor just to push through. And like almost showing up when you are sick is like, look at this guy, he's dedicated. And I was dedicated, but at what cost? At what cost, exactly. And it's, realizing as well that when I pushed myself to that point where I'd push myself for as long as I could, and then it would get to the point where I'd end up in hospital for something of whatever cause that it was. And that was like my time to just reset, get back to scratch. But what I started learning was that every time I pushed to that point, I was then letting down all these key people because, I kept pushing. And then all of a sudden I could do nothing for no one. So it really taught me something about self-care, that if you don't start to look after yourself and manage yourself on a regular basis, then you can't do anything for anyone. And, that was tough lessons as well, but I still hadn't fully grasped the picture at that stage. So I thought my answer to fix my problems was to exit that industry. And I thought I was kind of blaming the industry rather than taking responsibility. And so it was always like something else. And it's like, once I change environment, things are going to be different. So I left that environment and followed my brother-in-law into a sales role, just to try and reset, get some lifestyle back, and was really enjoying that. She was in the tech world and doing, quite successful there and trying to solve problems for businesses, and that general curiosity for me to go into an organization and work out where their pain points are and try and fix it was really quite rewarding. And it was actually through that process that I met Theo at Usher. And so they were a potential prospect or a customer, and had a number of really positive meetings with him and really trying to understand his business and his goals. And from there, sort of put together a bit of pitch anyways. And at one point, he, after maybe seven or so meetings, it was quite an drawn-out process. I get this phone call from him one day and he says, "All right, you got the deal, mate. Come in with your contract and we'll get signed up." So I went in there, like, yep, got another sale. This is great. Sat down. It was quite strange because all the way up to this point, I'd only been dealing with Theo. And I come into this meeting and there was a boardroom and there was like 5 other people. And he sits down and he goes, "I'll put the contract over there." He's like, "I don't want to talk about that. I want you to come work for me."
No way.
And I was like, what? I had no idea. So obviously very construction focused. I've had zero construction background, no trade, no, whatever else. And so it wasn't like an instant. I didn't join the team straight away. It took me, it took me like 2 or 3 months because I wasn't looking for anything.
That sort of role. You were happy working in your sales thing, and then someone you were selling to was like, "You're too good for this. Come work for us."
100%. Yeah. So it was quite bizarre, but what I did do was a lot of homework on the organisation and as Theo, and everyone I asked at every opportunity that knew something about it said that he was an incredible person, incredible organisation. They were having an impact beyond what they were doing in the trade industry. And, if you got an opportunity to learn from someone like that, you should take it. And so I eventually said yes. And it's right at the time that I was getting married. So I agreed to start after our honeymoon. And it was the best break I've ever had because it was the first time that I had like zero responsibility. I was on a holiday with my wife on a honeymoon, and we cruised from Hawaii back to Sydney, which was pretty cool. And didn't have any phone calls or emails. And it's probably the first time that I actually felt like my body was in that homeostasis where it wasn't like fight or flight trying to solve problems. But I didn't stay there. So,
because then you get diagnosed with MS, right? How is that before or after you started Usher?
No, it was after. So
okay, so you have the honeymoon.
Yep.
Nervous system starting to settle a little bit. New opportunity, new job.
Yep.
But then, the health issues continue to arise when you continue trying to push yourself to...
Yep.
Yeah, so talk me through starting Usher.
Yeah, so again, new environment, and because it is such an exciting environment that does believe in a lot of organic growth, straight away my internal dialogue is going, right, if you really apply yourself here, you can get to a certain position and you can get, rewarded for it and grow.
On the board in 9 years.
Yeah, exactly. So, it kind of has happened, but it's cost me early days along the way, and it's been a lot of readjusting. But from day dot, I was just flat out applied myself, put myself in a lot of different pressure, and we fell pregnant within the first year of being married, which was planned. So we did that, and then we had plans to build a house. We bought a block of land. Wife was pregnant. Everything was all sort of lining up and was great. And it was literally 3 months before our son was born, and I was feeling the intensity of pressure of what I was signing myself up for with work or choosing to do. I wasn't getting Usher wasn't the one pushing me saying
You're
work
like,
harder.
"Oh, I can do more."
Yeah, I can do more. I can do more. And I'm thinking I want to be operating at a high level to provide for my new family that's coming along, all that sort of stuff. So that internal push is happening. And I had all of a sudden these crazy sort of symptoms started kicking off, and it started with like a really severe headache that was just felt like there was a needle in the back of my head, just like driving in. And again, I ignored it, and I was just like, you know what, be tougher, have some Nurofen, show up, keep doing stuff. You know, you got a baby coming, push harder, push harder. And then it started developing even more to the point where it was like really acutely, like right behind my right eye. And as that was happening, I actually started to have issues with what I was seeing through my right eye. And I didn't think too much of it for a while, but within the space of a week or a week and a half, my vision just went from like night and day to it just started getting black, like it started getting darker and darker and darker. And it wasn't like an issue of not being able to read, like you need optics. It was like I can't see out of my eye anymore.
Yeah, wow.
And obviously it was bringing on a bit of concern because we had baby coming, whatever else. So I ended up getting into emergency, got a whole bunch of scans and tests done. And what they found was optic neuritis is what it's called. And it's basically the nerve behind your eye connecting to your brain. It was optic neuritis is the disease. And the nerve that is running the signal from your eye to your brain had been eaten away at. And the message that was getting sent from the eye to the brain wasn't coming through. Mm-hmm. So there's actually nothing wrong with my eye itself, just the message that was being sent. And through that discovery, they then said, you know, this is often linked with a disease called multiple sclerosis, which I'd heard about, but I had no real idea. Mm-hmm. And so they said, we want to do some further testing. So, yeah, end up having the full body MRI, CT scan where I get in the tunnel and they do your head and spine, everything. And sure enough, they discovered a whole bunch of lesions on my brain. So I don't know, do you know much about MS?
Not much.
Yep.
You want to maybe explain to me in the audience a bit? All I know from MS is and there's obviously different levels to it, right?
Yeah.
There's people who are severely affected.
Yep.
I had a family friend where my dad would go and play Scrabble with this guy. This is my weird story of MS. And there's a friend of ours who had MS lived out the back of another friend's house who was like in a wheelchair and quite immobile, but brain still worked very well. And my dad used to go and play Scrabble with him. So that's what I know of MS, but I didn't know too much about the disease.
Yeah. Well, it's so varying. It's called a chronic disease, chronic illness, and it's got no known cure, and it's basically a progressive disease as well. So once it's onset, it just progressively gets worse and debilitating. So the best way I can probably summarize MS is that within your brain, you have all of your nerves through your spine, everything, your spinal cord. That's obviously sending all the messages for how your body functions and the motor neuron controls, and your own immune system. So it's an autoimmune disorder. Yeah. And your immune system basically looks at your brain as being a foreign body, and the way that it would try and kill off a germ or bacteria, it's now actually attacking your own brain and it's eating away at it. And that's why it's so different, is because depending on where it attacks, that affects the body in that way. So if you think of your brain like a house where you've got electrical cords going everywhere. Vision.
Yeah, it's like if it's attacking something to do with your speech or something to do with your memory or...
Could be anything. So mine to start with was the eye. But what we had learnt from doing the brain scan was that I'd already had multiple MS attacks because there was all these lesions there, which is basically the scar tissue. So if your brain's eaten away at the nerve that's here. Yeah. It's chewed through the cord, and then now it's attacking the actual nerve that's sending the signal back and forth, and that's interrupting it. So it leaves behind scar tissue that's sitting there, and that's how they track the disease, how bad it's been or how much it's progressing. So I had multiple lesions, which is why they call it multiple sclerosis. It's not just one off. Yeah. And it was quite confronting because, I didn't know much about it, but
28 years old, 27?
20... What would I have been? 26. 26, yeah. 26 years old. And it's not as common in young males. It's sort of usually in 30s, 40s is the predominant diagnosis. Yeah. And the females actually have a higher rate. But the men that generally get it tend to get it worse for whatever reason. Yeah. That's just the general sort of thing.
Is there any pre-marker or any reason, or do they put it down to your continuous stress and fight or flight, and or was there any
so
reason?
This is the hard thing, is that from a medical standpoint, they've kind of just look at the diagnosis and the symptoms, and then they go, we can't tell you what the root of this is. All we can say is this is what's happening within your body, and this is what we recommend you do to manage it. Okay. And I wasn't completely satisfied with that, but I sort of, I can definitely stem it back to lifestyle and stress and things like that too. But for me, and not to get into any sort of too much, sensitive topic, but my body started changing a lot. I went to Vietnam on a school trip when I was a youngster, and before going, I had a whole bunch of vaccinations to go.
Yeah.
And when I had a certain vaccination, I can't even remember which one it was now, but I went and had the trip. When I came back, my whole body, the lymph nodes and everything swelled up like golf balls everywhere onto my arms, and was in hospital for that as well. And they did not know what was going on, so they did a biopsy, and they said, we'll reach out in 1 or 2 weeks. And we're leaving the hospital, and we get this phone call saying, come back. And they thought that I had like stage 4 cancer. Like my body was presenting the same issues as stage 4 cancer. It was reacting the same way like I was fighting cancer. But what it turned out to be was a reaction to this vaccine. And my body just didn't handle it well for whatever reason. And from that point forward, I had a lot of different issues internally that were to do with the immune system. And I think it definitely changed something within my body and how it was handling stuff. But then I did no favors by operating in fight or flight and stress and what I was eating. So there's no one thing that I could blame or put it to. And I think that's when I started to take a bit more of a shift, was moving from a space of like feeling sorry for myself and trying to blame and go like, why did this happen to me? And start to take like a lot of personal responsibility to go, what role did I play in this? And, it didn't happen by accident. I didn't walk down the street and catch it like a cold.
Yeah.
Like my body was a product of everything, every decision I'd made up to that point.
Yeah.
So, I kind of put everything on the back burner initially because we were literally about to have our kid.
When you say put on the back burner, you sort of, not treatment, but what do they say to you? Like, what was when you got the prognosis or diagnosis, what was the recommendation for things to help mitigate what's going on? But also, what did they sort of explain to you your quality of life was going to be like? Before you becoming a dad, you're 26 years old. Yeah, tell me what like the sort of doctor said to you at that stage.
That was really hard. It's hard to even think about those conversations now because, it wasn't in the first lot of results that came back because that was their first marker of where everything was at. But by the following one, and there was actually quite a significant amount more lesions by that point, the prognosis was that it was quite aggressive MS and that I may be very well quite debilitated within, they sort of said within anywhere between 2 to 5 years. You might not be able to maintain a job. You might not be able, you're going to be getting cared for as opposed to being the carer for your family. So I was sort of finding this out as I was becoming a dad, and my mindset was I'm going to be the provider for the family. I wanted to be that person that the family could rely on, and I had done nothing up to that point. Obviously I was doing quite well as an employee, but I hadn't created wealth that my family could sustain itself off if that was to happen to me. So it really rocked my world, and it was like, shit, what are we going to do? We were supposed to be building a house, so that ended up falling through as well. Through all of our finance ourselves was fine, but the block that we were building on, because of the placement of it, got undervalued by the bank at the last minute, and we found out 2 days before. So it was MS, then 2 days before we're having our baby, the bank came back and undervalued it and said that, there's nothing else we can do. If you want the house to go ahead, you've got to pay another 50, 60 grand out of your pocket for all these different easements and a plan for the backyard to make it resaleable. And we just didn't have that. Like we'd already sort of maxed ourselves. So we lost a lot of capital through that process because we'd already been through the build design and like we were so far down the road. Like there was no, in our mind, there was no doubt that it was going ahead. And, so it was just a significant
diagnosis and then kid coming in a few days.
Yeah, and it was like, well, that was going to be our family home. It was like, that's the security, like whatever else. All of a sudden now it's like, now you're not going to be able to provide. Now you don't have a family home. Like, so it definitely leveled me a bit. But at the same time, I was so excited about being a dad. Like I've just always loved, whether it was cousins or nephews or whatever else. My sister's had 4 kids. My wife's sisters had 3 kids. So we've been aunties and uncles for quite some time. Yeah. And just absolutely love, having that time with children and being able to have experiences and sport and just doing life for them. And I think you learn so much from children as well. I have anyways. So I didn't let it destroy me. Like I didn't fall apart, but I was definitely worried. And so the doctor's recommendation, if we go back to that, was that, so there's a few different ways you can treat MS, but their recommendation for me was to go into these monthly blood infusions where I'd have to go into the hospital every month, and they would have to hook me up similar way to dialysis, yeah, and get an infusion in there. And the whole viewpoint with that is that to actually suppress the immune system, because the immune system was the thing that was attacking my brain. It was like, well, we just need to shut this thing off.
Which doesn't sound like a very good thing to do either.
No, so I didn't feel comfortable with that. I definitely didn't want to be doing it whilst we were having the baby. So I just sort of said, let's focus on doing that. And we'd had like a really great pregnancy up to that point too. But then as my wife's having the baby, we had a planned C-section. Her family came back from a trip overseas in Fiji and brought back with them hand, foot and mouth, which we didn't know at the time. So just before she was having the baby, she got the hand, foot and mouth disease, which is not a bad thing, but because she was heavily pregnant, she got it really chronically. They reckon it was trying to protect the baby, so it just flared her up even worse. So we had this tough scenario where we had a lot of things going on in life, but then for when we welcomed our baby to the world, for the first week, she wasn't allowed to have skin-to-skin contact with our son because she had to wear gloves to hold our son. So we just had this like really just big shift in what we had planned, and you have these expectations, and I think when you fall short of major milestone expectations like that, it definitely it takes its toll, and I think that's had a lasting impact in different areas. But regardless, we got through it okay. Super grateful.
Like 6 months before, you're like, sweet, the house has almost gone through.
We thought we were doing this.
Pregnant, job's gone good, and then 6 months later, you've got can't touch the baby. Wife's sick in hospital while she's giving birth. You've got MS, and like the house falls through. Like, far out, man. Like, what a cascade of things at 26 years old to have to go through, and it should be like the best times of your life. Probably look back as some of the most challenging. So you got told to do this dialysis kind of thing. Didn't really want to do that. Didn't feel right to you intuitively to suppress the immune system, where you kind of want your immune system to be working better. What other advice did they give you, and then what was this next couple of years of your life like?
At that time, there was not really any other advice from them. There was just a lot of pressure
to do that.
And they said, look, if you're not comfortable with that, there's only really different types of medication, but like this is just how we treat MS. So they just kept pushing and pushing, and I was getting letters, phone calls, emails like, you need to start treatment. We've got you booked for this date. And I was like, deferred. I just didn't feel comfortable. And we're actually sort of
pharmaceutical companies pushing for that.
Yeah, and it's hard. Like, and I don't want to speak too ill of that. Like my role, I guess, here today, I don't want to come in and say negative things out because
nor do I. But I'm very excited for this next chapter because I know now you're symptom free. You're pretty much at full health. And you didn't take their advice. So this next couple years is going to be what I know my audience will be very intrigued in, and hopefully anyone who has been given a diagnosis from a doctor or something that's kind of left them with not much hope. To be curious, to look outside. Definitely, go for second opinions, listen to your doctors. There's so many things that, the medical industry gets so right, but it also gets it wrong sometimes. And it sounds like your story with the advice I gave you was wrong based on the fact that look at you now with going an alternate route. So, when did you start becoming more aware of alternate options to deal with your MS? How bad was it? Like, was it getting worse in these 6 months while you're not doing the recommendations? And talk me through the next few years.
So I actually did succumb and started doing some of the treatment. And that was actually
as 99% of people would do.
It took me nearly 6 months, and we'd sort of got the baby settled by then. We got a good family routine going on, and decided that what happened was I was still pretty firm on not wanting to do it, but I was getting a lot of pressure from my wife as well, and then my family. And I think there's something I'd like to share with the audience is that when these things come up in your life, there is going to be external pressure and it's from people that genuinely care and love you. They're not doing it out of a place of trying to make things worse. They're concerned about you. So they're just like, hey, you need to act. So I was getting all this pressure from my mum, dad, everyone.
And was your health deteriorating here a bit?
It was deteriorating.
Doing that well?
So I still am legally blind in my right eye, so like fully lost vision. So, but outside of that, I was having all sorts of other complications. I was getting numbness, tingling, pain, fatigue was just through the roof. I was just constantly tired. So it was definitely taking its toll, and obviously having a new baby.
Back at work, MS.
And I still had this mindset of just be
spoken
tough and
to
show
Theo
up.
on like the workplace about your MS?
I did. Theo was like the only one that I had really told. And what I'd sort of said at that point too is that if at any point it starts to affect my ability to perform or deliver, like, you'll be the first to know, and I'm not going to take you for a ride or anything like that. And he was super supportive as well. But
it's beautiful when you just started too.
Oh no, I was just incredibly grateful for that man and what he's done. But I started down this treatment path, and through the treatment, whether it was my own, and I think there's a lot to be said about the power of your mind and that whole belief system. You listen to stuff like Bruce Lipton and stuff. He talks about the power of belief in your mind, and I think my mind definitely wasn't feeling comfortable with this scenario of the treatment, and whether it was the treatment or whether it was my mind,
trusting your intuition.
So I was deteriorating hard. I got to a certain point where my hands weren't functioning properly, and I couldn't even open a bottle of water. Like, you give me a bottle like that, and I couldn't get the grip to twist it to be able to pull it off. And I was having significant issues. I was struggling to sleep because of the pain, and it was not looking good. And this was like 6 to 8, maybe 12 months in. Still new parents at this stage, and I got
in the back of your mind too that within 3 to 5 years they might be caring for you. So you're like,
and it was looking like that too. Like, the way it was going was just things were just more and more functions were starting to fall apart. And so I think it was 3 treatments in. So I did 3 months back to back, and I just sort of said, I just can't do this anymore.
Yeah, how'd you feel? Because if it's suppressing your immune system, you probably feel shit.
Oh, yeah. And then there was the concern of everything else that you're exposed to and what else was going on.
And was that meant to be forever, every month? Is that kind of what the MS thing is, come in every month and do this forever?
Yep. Yeah, the whole idea is just to...
Medicare?
It's not to treat it, it's just to suppress it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, pulled away from it. And it was at this time when I started really diving into... I know it was always someone around education, but I really started listening to podcasts, but different types of podcasts. Yeah. And I was seeking out more health-related stuff, and I was looking for signs of other ways to do things. And I just felt like there was another way, but I didn't have the exposure or the knowledge, so I was just seeking it out, and I got exposed to people like Joe Dispenza and Bruce Lipton and, common threads. I know a lot of your audience probably would listen to a lot of those ones or read some of the literature, but I think for me, there's, certain ones where all I needed to hear was just something that had a common thread with my scenario, but had a radically different outcome, and they'd had this turnaround. That was enough for me to go, right, like, there's something else I can do about this. And even though it wasn't my exact scenario, I didn't have this mindset of like, oh, I'm completely unique, it's not going to work for me. It was like, okay, right, if they found a way, I just need to get determined now to figure out what that is. So I probably went too heavy into the consuming, where I was like addicted to listening to podcasts and listening, and I was trying everything, and probably threw myself at too many different things.
And didn't give them enough chance to actually set in the body.
And I think that was something I've had to learn too.
What were some of those things?
Oh, from as wild as supplements to there was complete diet changes, which some of them I stuck through as well. But there was all these different protocols that people had talked about and they'd sworn by for MS. There were different protocols, and I think what I learnt from a lot of different experimentation was that I don't feel like there's a one size fits all for anyone.
Yeah.
And I think that's why you've got to really be open-minded and curious enough to know what you need for yourself and your situation and your lifestyle and your environment. And you've got to try and find how you can weave in things that are working for you.
Yeah.
And it took me a while to sort of get there, but the main things that really stuck with me was, listening to one of Wim Hof's interview podcasts it was on the Joe Rogan podcast, actually. Had a friend flick me that link.
I reckon I've listened to one of those old ones.
Yeah, one of those original ones. And he specifically talked about some people in there that had like basically cured MS or had no symptoms anymore because they were tapping into their autonomic nervous system and they were sort of recalibrating how the body was functioning and how it was responding to stress.
Yeah.
And I thought, righto, like that's common
exactly
thread.
Right, yeah.
See, like all of a sudden these things are going off in my head like, okay, this is drawing me in. I was quite attracted to hearing more about it. So I started playing around with a lot of breath work and got fortunate enough. So it was one of those strange synchronicities where I just started playing around with it. And I said to Theo at the time, I said, mate, I'm having some pretty wild experiences with breath work, and I actually feel like I'm having positive change. I don't know if it's just in my head, but I just feel like something good is happening here. And I started talking about it. He goes, you won't believe this. He's like, I just had this feeling that I needed to book 6 tickets to this event down in Sydney, and it was Wim Hof going to Sydney to do a workshop. It was a full day thing. And he goes, I didn't know why, I didn't know what it was, but something told me that I needed to do this and someone needed it. And so I was literally just sharing my story of something new that I was excited about. And he's like, I want you to come. So he paid for the flights and everything, went down to Sydney. We got to meet Wim Hof, had conversations with him.
He's a quirky dude, eh?
Yeah, he's a quirky dude.
I've met him before. He's so interesting. I had
He's
dinner
so
with him and then spoke at an event with him a couple of years ago. He's such an interesting dude.
He is such an interesting dude.
He's exactly what you say. He's like what you get.
And I think that's something too, like to talk about, is that you don't have to fully resonate with someone to learn from them and to get something out of them, because there are certain things with even Wim Hof, I'm like, whoa, like that's a bit wild and extreme, and it made me almost feel a bit uncomfortable. Like, you just, you're challenging your own thought patterns and belief systems to play around with new things. And I think what I'm grateful for is that it didn't deter me from it altogether.
Yeah.
And I think that's one thing I would say, is that when you're trying to find your own path and what works for you, is that don't be afraid to sort of take bits and pieces from people.
That's it. And that's like what you were touching on before. And I always say this is like, not everything is going to work for everyone, but something will work for everyone. So if you're curious enough and have the willingness to continue looking, there's going to be something that's going to help you, steer the ship into a healthier place. And it sounds like, certain parts from the breath work, and I'm guessing cold exposure as well, had big impacts on your immune system.
Yep.
Rather than the doctors trying to suppress it, you're trying to like almost supercharge it and reteach it.
Yeah. That's exactly what happened. That's what I love so much about what you do, is that you're getting such a wide, different variety of guests and people that had all these different experiences and stories of overcoming different challenges. And I think it's so important for people to have the ability to expand their mind and to realize what is possible in different areas. And I think that was something I've been cautious of actually sharing my story, is that I would never want to label myself as being someone who's found a cure for MS and say like, I've got the answer and follow my protocol, because I just don't think...
That's going to be the YouTube head title.
Yeah, please don't.
We've cured MS.
Yeah, no. So definitely not. But what I can say is that, the deeper I went into playing around with these different things, so probably my key pillars were breathwork, and then I got really into cold exposure. And Theo, again, was supporting it, and he got on the train seat, so we invested in an ice bath for the office. So we got an ice bath at the office, was doing ice baths every day in the morning, doing breath work, and then diet was a big part of it too, because the things that cause inflammation, that was causing havoc in my body, was driven by stress, but also what was being put in my body. I thought, what can I do to strip that out? So I just completely cut sugar and carbs and went more of that ketogenic, even did full carnivore for a while. And I've sort of balanced that out a lot more now and incorporated, I've got quite a healthy balanced diet, but for a while there it was just like really strict, and I dropped nearly 30 kilos and stripped back, and some people look at me going, you look really almost unhealthy because of how much weight I was losing, but I just didn't care because I was actually starting to feel good. All the symptoms that I was experiencing started to dissipate. So the pain that I was having, the fatigue, all of a sudden I had this really consistent energy level. Like I wasn't having these big peaks and troughs. It was just, I always felt on, and I felt quite focused and calm. And it was such a huge contrast from where I was, where I just felt like I was in pure survival and the world was crumbling around me. And it really didn't take that long, to be honest. Like I honestly, I wish I'd kept better track of it, but I think within the space of 2 months, the results were so significant that, and I just started feeling almost like superhuman. And I just kept down that train of just, trying different things, dropping things that weren't serving me, adding things into it, building some sort of daily disciplines and habits. And I guess where it was a really cool moment for me was when I went back to my following scans, because it got to the point where I had to have them. Initially, it was very frequent. I was getting all these scans done because of how new it was and what was happening.
So how quick it's progressing.
Yeah, but then it started getting stretched out to every 6 months and then 12 months. And now I don't remember the last time I had one because they're sort of ignoring me now, the medical institute. But when I started really incorporating a lot of these practices and noticing that my body was actually moving in a healthy direction, I went in and had these follow-up scans and caught up with my neurologist. And I could tell it was the first time he'd looked at the results too, but I was sitting alongside him and he's pulled up on the screen the results, and he sat there like looking for a while, like almost like you're doing a cartoon, like the jaw was sort of dropped down, a bit stunned. He was just like staring at it, and I was like, is everything okay? Like sort of a bit concerned that he'd seen something bad. And he's like, I don't know what I'm looking at. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, I don't think I've seen this before. He's like, not only are your lesions that were there in your brain, he said that majority of them had either significantly reduced in size, and he was showing me, he's like, here's the old scans, here's now. They'd either significantly reduced in size, or some of them he couldn't even find, like they were just missing. And he's like, that's not medically possible. Like, that's how we track the disease. It's progressive, and it never goes backwards. It stays there, and it just gets more and more. And to top it off, he was really quite confused by what he was seeing with the saturation levels of the brain, because what I was doing, and I was starting to play around with it by this point because I was feeling quite good within myself.
Yeah.
I was in the CT tunnel, sorry.
Yeah.
And I was doing my breath work in there.
Okay.
And I only had one nudge from the person doing the test to say, you need to be a bit more still, because I was moving around a bit. But
just trying to get that biochemistry.
Yeah. So I thought, I'm just going to have a go at this. And I had this image in my mind before going in that I was, going to have something sort of special happen in there. And so I went through my breath work in there, and I was in the tunnel. I got to the point, because I was doing my full brain and spine, it was like nearly an hour and a half of being tunneled, which is not a fun experience, but
it's loud
and wild. But I went on this sort of breathwork journey, and what he was finding, aside from the fact that the lesions were changing, you looked at the brain, and it's got like 40 different snapshots of the brain from when you're in the tunnel, and they're all stacked on top of each other in rows. And it starts from just black and white contrast, and you can see the brain and what's there. And as it was getting there, it started getting like this gold sort of color light on it. And as it's getting further down the brain, it was getting more and more saturated to the point where you get down here and the whole brain is like a golden globe, like a light bulb.
Wow.
And because he hadn't seen that before, and what we had sort of discovered later on was that I'd fully like saturated my brain with oxygen through the breath work. And that was showing up from the contrast that I was taking going in there to do it. And I guess that wasn't the most profound thing, but it was just so cool for me to actually get tangible feedback of the power of breath work, because up until that point it had just been like this. I hadn't had any sort of real measurement. All I knew that I was feeling better, and I didn't really dive into the science of it so specifically. I just sort of thought, I'm just going to keep doing this, and if it feels great and it feel good, then I don't care. I'm just going to keep going. But that was the first point where I was like, wow, this is actually doing something significant.
Yeah, wow.
And my neurologist sort of said, he's like, I have to tell you that my recommendation still is that you get on this protocol and you have your infusions. That's what I have to tell you. And he goes, I know you're not going to listen. And he goes, outside of that, he's like, just keep doing what you're doing.
Isn't that crazy that they said, this is what we have to tell you, but I've clearly shown what you're doing is working better than what I'm telling you to do. Like, it should be like, can we come and do some more studies on you and learn a bit more, so that maybe we can, encourage patients to do this non-invasive breathing to help heal themselves. It baffles me. Like, I've had multiple guests. I had a great friend who's an incredible physiotherapist and health scientist who got told that him and his wife couldn't get pregnant because she had such bad endometriosis, and all these different things to do with inflammation, because the food we eat now just, promotes inflammation, all the fucking seed oils and shit. The stressful life we live in promotes inflammation. It's like, we need to just be doing things that can help anti-inflame our body. Ice baths, breathwork, eating healthy organic food, stepping in nature, exercising. Like, we're just stripping away all of the anti-inflammation in our body and just inflaming it. Like, no wonder the body's like screaming on the inside. And then you pump new things in it to like try and help. It's just like, the whole system's interesting sometimes.
It is, and I feel it's broken in that sense, and it's all about trying to suppress the symptoms, right? And it's just, don't make any lifestyle changes. Just take this tablet or do this, and that's the best thing we can offer you. And I think that's where they've failed people. That it's sort of,
how many people would have listened to you, and now not in a home, but still raising your family, but working one day a week on the NDIS, clogging the system, or you could have had this, breathwork experience. And here you are. It's just so fascinating. What other things did you do that, so diet, breath work, what was your protocol when it came to breath work, and what is your sort of daily protocol now?
So my mornings are really my time to invest in myself. And obviously,
talking through your morning routine for someone who's, working a highly stressful corporate life, exactly like you, pre-diagnosis and lifestyle changes, and also maybe put off the back how you feel at work productivity-wise, if you're better than you've ever been probably right now than before anyway. So I'm saying that as a way for somebody who's like, I don't have the time and energy to invest in this, and be like, no, it's actually like it pays back in itself. It's like any investing. You got to, pay a little bit to then get double back. So yeah, what does your morning routine look like now?
Yep.
And how do you feel now compared to back when you were burning yourself out?
It's like night and day. So mornings for me now, I'm a weird time, but 4:45 is when my alarm goes off.
Yeah.
And I'm up out of bed, get my clothes on I've already prepared for the day. But my current routine is I actually get to the office at that time. So I'm lucky I only live sort of 15, 20 minutes away. So I get to the Usher HQ, but not to start working, but I get there and I'll have exercise because we've got some fitness equipment that's there.
Yeah.
And I'll go
What's
through.
the 5? So you wake up at 5, get dressed, go to work at 5?
Yep, so just gym equipment. I'll get to work at 5, and yeah, I'm straight into actually a bit of healthy body movement and exercise, and that can look different each day. I'll go for a couple of runs around the block, maybe a couple of Ks, or it's body weight exercises, stretching, things like that. And when I come back from that, I go straight into breath work in a little zone at Usher. We've got actually like a yoga room there, so we've got a yoga teacher that comes out once a week, which has been another practice that I had no exposure to before, and I cannot speak highly enough about yoga.
Incredible, eh?
Incredible.
The
breath work.
The breathing part of yoga is a thing that until you actually start doing it, you go, it's actually how well can I do challenging things while maintaining flow of breath. And I think it shows up in life when something gets stressful. It's like, how can you come back to your breath in that moment, and then you can manage stress far better. And yoga is a great way to do it. I don't know if you've done any hot yoga that adds that extra layer.
I haven't tried it yet.
If you can flow your nose breath through movement where you want to... It's like, how can you best manage that? And that's what yoga's done for me. Is that an experience for you?
Yeah, it's been exactly the same. And I've found like that you're taking the principles of what you learn whilst doing yoga in a class and trying to incorporate it into stressful situations and work and things like that. And you just become a lot more aware and intentional. And then when you realize the impact that it has, you start to just have more and more, you're proactively trying to influence your breath work because you know what it's doing for your body.
You respond rather than react throughout your day.
Yeah. So I jump in that little room we've got and I black out the lights and I do breath work. And
how long? What breath work do you do?
Yeah, so I usually will do 3 rounds of like a Wim Hof sort of breath work. So it's just that really strong inhalation, letting it out, and then followed by retention. And I got really into the retention thing early on. Like
4 minutes or something.
I feel silly saying it because people don't believe
5
me.
or 6?
No,
7. What do you?
My longest one that I've done, 10 minutes and 59 seconds. It was 1 second off 11 minutes.
11 minutes on an empty exhale. That's fucking insane.
Yeah, I went pretty well with it for a while. I can consistently do 8 minutes, like no problem. But
no way, holy shit! I thought I was pretty good, and I was getting up to like 4 or 5, but 11 is crazy. But it just shows you like, our body's capable of so much more.
Oh, that's been the biggest learning as well, and it's not something I try to talk or brag about because it feels weird, but it wasn't doing it for that purpose.
Have you done any other different than Wim Hof breath work? Have you ever done any like trauma release breath work? No, because that's what I'm trained in as a facilitator in like conscious connected breathing, which is no holds.
Yep.
It's just straight for up. We did an hour.
Wow.
And like once you get past about 20 minutes, this thing called transient hyperfrontality happens. I don't know if you've heard of that in your studies or reading. Basically, the way that I understand it is, so we have a prefrontal cortex where it's our thinking and logic.
Yeah.
And by that forced hyperventilation for that long, the blood starts to move from your frontal lobe to like your hypothalamus and your amygdala, which is like your emotions, and when we're a kid or when we don't get to get angry because if we get told we're not meant to, we suppress it all. Yes. And then once you do this certain thing, about 20 minutes, your brain chemistry changes where the blood starts to move from the front to the back, and you start to sort of like get out of your head basically. And that's when like I did this like retreat and I was bawling my eyes out through certain experiences. I was clenched up, like had tetany like crazy.
Yeah.
I watched other people have like raging, like fucking body contortions and shit, just literally only from that breathing. And then the music as well helped, like you have release songs, but have you done any of that sort of stuff?
Not to that degree, and I feel like I've had very similar experiences, and I push breath work for like that duration, but I haven't put myself in that environment where that's the purpose. I think I've sort of just found my way there, just playing around with it. But it's something I've had on my like bucket list as I want to go to a retreat. I want to go to a facilitator for that because
I've got a great. You'd love doing the course that I did, the facilitator course. It's breathwork and meditation. I did it not to teach, like I don't go and teach breathwork, but just to understand the mechanics. And I actually went to it thinking I was learning how to do Wim Hof on the beach breathwork. My friend who owns Cool to Be Conscious, Ryan, who's such a legend and such a great mentor and an incredible coach. I highly recommend doing his course. But I thought when I went to I did like 10 weeks of like online training and then a 5-day retreat. And I thought I was learning how to like teach people breath work on the beach. And then when I got there, I was like, oh shit, this is way different. There's like no breath holds. There's, it's like trauma release stuff. And I was like, oh, but because like we're in a capsule of 20 people, we'd done 10 weeks, we'd had the comfortability around each other. We had to teach each other and learn on each other. Wow. We all just became so comfortable and safe. And this 5-day retreat was just like so beautiful. Like we got there 2 days fasting when we first had one beautiful meal and 2 days fasting. Phones got put in a drawer for the 5 days. Like it was fucking magical.
That's pretty cool.
You'd love it.
It's like a bit of sensory deprivation as well. And
it was just like fucking, it was an eye-opening. It was just such a beautiful empathy building retreat to show that all of us who just sit around looking normal, like all of us, no one's normal. But we all had this trauma that we held. Every one of us had big releases. So I'm like, every time I meet anybody who looks like they've got it together, I'm like, give me a couple of weeks with you teaching you how to breathe correctly, and then through this,
let
I'll
it
make you. Like, it just shows we all have shit that we're holding on to. So you have to have empathy for everyone.
Yeah.
Sorry, a bit of a tease.
No, I love that. It's beautiful. No, I played around, but I haven't done enough. Like really, probably it's my own weakness too, is that I don't get.
But if you find something that works for you, stick with it. If it's working, like fuck, you don't need to go and find other things. But just as an extra exploration, like like holotropic breathwork's another thing that I did once. It's fucking wild and weird, but
I've had some differently wild experiences with breathwork.
Yeah,
I feel like you leave your body.
Yeah, crazy shit. So you do your 20 minutes of breath work, fucking 2 hours of breath hold.
Yeah. So once I get out of that, I'm jumping straight in the ice bath that we've got at the office.
Yep.
And then I'm in there for a couple of minutes, anywhere up to 4 or 5 minutes. And that's running at about 2 to 3 degrees regularly. So it's cold. Yeah. And then we've got an infrared sauna there as well. So we've got a few perks. And I know not everyone's got immediate access to that, but these are later things that we've got to. For a while, like it was just using a freezer that we tubbed, and even just going back to the basics of a cold shower, like the simpleness of a cold shower and what that can do with cold exposure is just so powerful to start your day as well. So I guess for anyone listening, if they feel like, oh, lucky you've got access to those things, like yes, I am, but it doesn't mean that you're excluded from being able to have the benefits of all that sort of stuff. It's just because it's there.
You can do breath work. You have a shower, you can have a cold shower.
Exactly, yeah. So just simplify and just be focused on what you can do versus what you can't.
Exactly.
And for a long time, when I was having the most impact, I didn't have those things. It was just a lot more basic. The ice bath at the office was a later introduction. I was already like heavy into the breath work by then, and fasting's another part of it. So sorry to wrap up the morning. I'm ice bath, sauna, and then I'll, depending on what my day looks like from there, I'll try and rotate between the two for a little while, between the ice bath and the sauna. Yeah. Which there's some controversy about whether that's good or not, but for me, again, I feel good, so I don't care. Yeah. Get out, have a shower, get ready for work. But before I start, I'll make a coffee, a black coffee, or whatever else, and I will read. So I've got a good 15 minutes where all I do, I don't look at my phone. And I should mention to this point, I've been up by then. I'll start reading 6:45. So by
an hour and a half doing this.
Yeah.
Is this 5 days a week at work usually?
Yeah, 5 days a week at work. And so that morning is just mine, and I ignore my phone. I don't look at any emails. I don't try and take on any of that future stress. Obviously, I've got an understanding of what my day is going to look like, and sometimes I've got to be at an early meeting somewhere in Brizzy or whatever, but you make adjustments. But majority of the time, that's what it looks like.
Progress, not perfection.
Yeah, exactly. So at the moment, I'm reading your book. So that's my 15 minutes. And after that, everything goes away, and then I'll sort of start my day, and I'm into it from there. But what I find...
So you don't start work at like 7:30 kind of thing?
Yeah, 7:30.
And then you finish so you can get your son from school? And
I'm not the pickup at the moment, so my wife, we're fortunate we
you start that early so you can get a bit of afternoon time with the family?
That's the goal.
Grinding work pretty hard till 5 months.
So this is the thing, like I still have lessons and boundaries to learn there. No one's pinning me down to be there, but I still will usually stay at the office till like 4:30 most days. But I am trying to get better at getting out, even if it's say like 4 o'clock, and just utilizing those couple of hours where son's finished school, we can go for a bike ride, we can do whatever. But I will say that regardless of what time I get home or how crazy my day's been, like my son is not aware of that. Like I try and put that entitlement at the door, and it's just like full present. Up until we have dinner, it's just, what do you want to do? Let's just do some fun stuff together and have some deep conversations with a little 8-year-old and
Nice.
learn from him.
Leave work at work.
Yeah, exactly. So, there are occasions where I need to, and I try to do the same thing with both my son and my wife, make sure she's, feel present with her. We have dinner together. We do the bed routine, get into bed. And then if I have to do some more critical work, I still sometimes will do that late in the evening. So, there is pressure that's there, but I don't come home and be consumed and angry and be like, oh, it's busy, it's hard, I've still got 2 hours of work to do, and then make my family feel the weight of that.
Yeah.
I've sort of learnt now to just put it in a box, give them that present time, and if I have to come back, I'm not, working myself up about it. It's just trying to make sure that the shit of today is not carrying over to tomorrow as much. So just trying to clean it out a little bit as best I can. So definitely far from perfect, but it's just, it's how I've got the schedule going at the moment.
Progress. And then with all the changes, I guess, when it comes to your health outcomes, do you feel like you're working way better? Do you feel like you're a better, better like boss to the employees that come underneath you, better, person to, your staff?
Absolutely. I think when you go through sort of journeys like that, you learn so much more about yourself, and then it does generate empathy, and you realize everyone's going through their own stuff. Doesn't matter where it is, and there's no like comparison to scale, but life is so difficult. And I think, when you get yourself into a better space, all you want to do is help other people try and replicate that as well. So I am very conscious of reading people and how they're behaving and where they're at, and trying to, work with them and understand how we can get our staff to be optimal, because obviously if they're happy, then they're going to be happy within their families, their relationships, their health. They can show up better at work. Like it's all linked. So I think it's so important for employers to look at their employees and go, how do we actually make sure that we're investing in their mental, physical health? Because if we don't, then they're going to do exactly what I did and just fall off the rails.
Exactly.
And drive themselves into the ground. But it's a balance too, because you can't just push completely into the nurturing side and just make that everywhere an oasis where there's no work being done.
Yeah.
Like you've got to still have a combination of integrating. Life is still challenging. You still got to apply yourself. You still got to work hard. But how are you managing the stress of that in a healthy way? And what are you doing to still invest in yourself and not just say, oh, I'm too busy.
Yeah.
And I think for me, I've felt so much better. But I probably will say is that I've still, I've had scenarios where I've relapsed slightly in terms of not caring for myself. Far from perfect. And it seems crazy to do it from being in such a bad situation to getting better. But then you sort of
feel yourself, do you feel your body starting to have negative reaction if you do fall away from those habits?
It lets me know pretty quickly now. It's it gives me a quick slap around pretty quick. And I think that's the hard thing is life still keeps coming at you. And I've had since then some challenges that I found even harder than my own personal health. My wife went through a really significant period as well where her health was like a crisis. It was full on. And through that, we were all sort of in like survival mode as a family, where then all of the habits that you were doing well to get healthy, you sort of drop because you're just in this, back into fight or flight survival and just doing what you need to get through. But what we did learn is how to start to reintegrate that again and how to get back onto a healthier space and being more aware of how important it is. And I think that's been my biggest thing is that it still comes in like waves and roller coasters and, say with my eating, sometimes now just, you indulge, you have different treats or you eat different things because you feel like, I'm feeling pretty good, so I should be able to enjoy that. But it's trying to get a good, healthy balance where you can still enjoy life and treats, but you're not living in that space of just constantly having your body, indulging. And you just, and you start to recognize where you're feeling optimal and where you're not. Yeah. And it's like, well, what's the cost of it? And everything, and taking that personal responsibility is going, whatever choice you make is going to give you some sort of outcome. So what choices are you making and what are the outcomes? And are you okay with those outcomes? Or is it having a negative impact in your energy, your health, your life? You're not performing well. What adjustments do you need to make? So it's kind of just been this continual, it still is every day. It's sort of, you try and have the right sort of habits and standards to have a healthy lifestyle, but it's not as clean cut in a straight line as that. And I think, I'm sure you can probably appreciate that now too. Like I know you're someone I look at and admire for how you manage yourself in your life, but you've just launched a book. I'm sure that brings new challenges and schedules and travel and like some of the things that you pride yourself on from your routine standpoint. Sometimes they do you've got to make adjustments, right?
Oh, massively. And that's what I pride myself on, not being too hard on myself.
Yep.
I pride myself on like my full potential and habits board. Very rarely is there like a perfect 14 out of 14 day with all the habits. But also very rarely is there anything where there's like not one or two. Because it's very easy. On my board, I've got like breathwork, meditation, very easy to skip them for a day.
Yep.
Supplements, very easy to forget to take your supplements. Exercise, nature. There's many days that, you know, when I'm traveling, I've got my shoes on all day. I'm through an airport. I come home, I don't put my feet on the grass. Don't get a chance to exercise.
Yep.
Reading, easiest thing to not do, but, you know, also easy to do for a little bit.
Yep.
What else have I got? Stretching, once again. You can either not before you jump into bed, spend a bit of time on the foam roller, or you can. What else have I got on there? Sober, it's like, do I want to have a beer or two, or do I not want to not have a wine? Communication, like, did I put some time aside? Like you spoke about the importance of, you know, there's ups and downs in relationships. We have to, like, you know, go through them. There's no perfect relationship. It's about how do we communicate. Home cooking, once again, very easy. I've had a fucking busy day. I'll just order Uber Eats tonight.
Yeah.
Self-care for us, that's like, you know, making sure we put some moisturiser and stuff on our face and, you know, keep ourselves clean and tidy. Drink enough water, very easy to not do that in a day.
Yeah.
Gratitude, and then we have boundaries with our phone. So it's very easy to not do everything, but it's also very easy to do everything. So it's just like, and when you do everything, the rest of life gets easier. When you don't do everything, life gets harder. So it's like, how do I at least make sure I do a few of them? Because I know all of those things regulate my nervous system. They allow me to show up better during my day. And I don't do them all every day, but more often than not I do. And it allows me to, you know, maintain a bit of balance.
Yeah. And it's just being aware of how you feel when maybe you have slipped on it. And like you said, I think it's so important not to be hard on yourself, because I think that's where I've seen people close to me fall into that trap where maybe their actions or their behavior or the choices they make aren't in line with how they want to feel. But instead of looking at that as an opportunity to learn and go back and course correct, they sort of get shame and guilt. And then it's sort of like you just get on this downward spiral and then you continue to make more bad choices. And, you know, it's just this downhill effect. And I think it's just having grace with yourself to realize that no one's perfect and life is difficult, but how am I feeling within myself and what choices can I make today to move forward? And sometimes you feel like it's going to be a hard road to get back there. But I think you'd probably agree is that when you start to make consistent, healthier choices for yourself, the compound effect of that is so, like, it's not a linear line. Like it's exponential. You start to feel so great within your energy and what you're doing. And then that gives you more confidence. It's like the reverse effect. Instead of the shame and guilt that go down, when you make good choices, you feel better about yourself. Your self-image is growing. You're feeling better. And all of a sudden you're more encouraged to do more of it. Yeah. So, and that's certainly what I've found is that when you're in a rhythm of healthier life choices and doing things, you're almost like, I wouldn't say addicted, but you're so attracted to making more and more healthy choices because you can see how much of a benefit it's having in your life in different areas. Your relationship's better, your energy's better, you're getting better results at work. Your health's better, your relationship with your kids is better. Like all the metrics that are important to anyone is, you know, you're getting a better result. So then it's like, why wouldn't you? And I think at any point you're sort of feeling as though you're not feeling good within yourself, you get symptoms start to show up. Yeah. That's the first thing I try to look at is go, okay, what am I doing? What am I not doing? Yeah. You know? What did I stop doing that was working before? Yeah, and listen to the symptoms. Don't push them to the side and just, it'll be right. I'll skull drag my way through this. It's like, no, they'll catch up to you. How do you pivot when symptoms come so then they disappear and you're back to, you know, a good place? Yeah. And realising that it's, you know, you've got to create sustainability too. We're going with time. No, we're good. We're at hour 15. I thought we were really great chat. We're in the zone. But man, this has been an amazing conversation. Thank you so much for sharing your journey, you know, from the upbringing, you know, Canada, New Zealand, growing up in and out of different schools and really being able to reflect on that was maybe a reason why you, work so hard to try and fit in, to try and be worthy, which I think a lot of people have. I was reflecting on it actually with the guest yesterday I spoke to, and I also was talking to my partner about this. We were talking just the other day when we went out for a little night away. I'm thinking back to our childhood, and I was like, I reckon a big part of mine that I only really connected this was I'm the second child, and then we've got 3 sisters. So when you come in a big family, it's like kind of always trying to win attention of your parents and people around you. And then I got that by being a professional athlete, and then
you know, I was the talk of the family if Cooper's doing so well in his surfing, and then I felt like I had to try and keep up to that.
Yes, yeah.
But then I also felt this underlying guilt that, oh, like I'm getting all this attention, my sisters aren't. So it's like this weird, like, I only connected those dots back recently, and I didn't even put it in my book. After my book, I was like, actually, that's probably a big part of this external validation, going a bit deeper into the root of it for me. So for you to be able to have that awareness for the root of you trying to fit in by trying to, you know, overachieve and work hard and show that you're worthy, it's quite nice when you can reflect back, because then you can start to unlearn the patterns and not be so hard on yourself. So yeah, thank you for sharing that part of your story. Obviously, your health journey is just insane. To be diagnosed with MS, you know, degenerative disease. It's only meant to be going downhill for you to completely, you know, flabbergast the doctors and be curious enough and to listen to your intuition enough to go, there's got to be another way, to find that other way and to stick with it. Like, it's so cool and such a testament to, you know, the sort of guy you are, to put that hard working, prove them wrong to internal stuff, to making your health better is so, so cool. So it's been such a great journey. I'm looking forward to, you know, catching up more, hopefully getting some advice in my world with my work, and seeing how you can connect some of your great dots in business. And that corporate world with me would be really cool. But I do finish Good Humans podcast with the same question for everyone. So what does being a good human mean to Mikel
Nyholt, yeah.
Nyholt? What does being a good human mean to Mikel Nyholt?
What does good human mean? I think I'm such a massive optimist that I kind of feel like everyone at some level is a good human, but they're not always making good choices. And I think so often people are defined by the choices they make. And I think one of the most powerful things you can learn is to separate yourself from the choices you have or have made in the past, and realize that you can be a good human just by making some better choices, you know? And I think for me, you know, I think, a good human is everyone, but everyone who is actually leaning into their own personal power and making good choices, you know, and then it doesn't need to be perfect, like you said, but it's about doing things that are, you know, positively serving yourself or others. And it doesn't need to be anything major or significant. Like, you don't need to be Mother Teresa. It can just be the most simple things you do in everyday life and whatever capacity you can to have a positive impact on someone else. I think that's living as a good human.
I love that. Very well put. It's a great reflection. I want to ask you two last questions. Last one.
Yeah.
And not that I said that was going to be the last question. Just with your name, it's how did the name come about? I know you wrote this to me when you're giving me a bit of a background brief, and I thought I should have started with this, but we'll end with it.
Yeah.
Because anyone who's read your name on the podcast title or the YouTube title will see it's Mikel. I thought your name was Mikel for a very long time until you sent me that email, and I've been calling you Mikel, I think, ever since I've met you. Yeah. So you told me that, so I can finally get your name not right, call you Michael. So tell me how that came about.
Yeah, so my mum loved the name Michael, but she didn't like the way it was spelt. So for her, the original name is like Michelle. Like, she didn't like the CH. So for her, it was Mike with an L in it, Michael. So, but you put it together with my surname Nyholt, which is Dutch, and it looks very like Scandinavian. So it sounds like it should be fancy, but it's really not. It's just Michael. But yeah, it's funny you say that, because it's still like a nickname for me now through work, and even up in school it was like Mikel or Mikel. Yeah. So I don't even flinch now. If someone calls me Mikel, I'm just like, yep, that's my name. Like, it is. Yeah, exactly. So it's something I still respond to, but it is Michael. Yeah, as funny as that is, it's pretty simple.
That's so good. And then the last thing I just wanted to ask you, if anyone wants to reach out and once again, like, not get medical advice, but if someone, you know, has been diagnosed with MS and has been given, you know, the same encouragement to get treatment as you, that might be feeling that intuition that you did, is there any way they can get in contact? Should I put your Instagram in the show notes or your email? What's the best way? If, you know, you seem like the sort of person that if someone is going through something difficult and you can maybe help them, you're pretty willing to share what you can. So what's the best way to get in contact? Yeah,
look, Instagram is probably a good way. I'll give you that after the show notes, but I think it's M Nyholt.
I'll put a link in the show notes. So if you're listening right now, go check out the show notes. And like I do with every guest, I always put their Instagram. Just wanted to make sure
I definitely feel that way. And I don't have like a self-help program. I don't have a cure. Like, I'm just,
not at all. You're just
I'm just someone who likes to help. Yeah, exactly. And I think that was one of the reasons I was really drawn to catch up with you, is I know that we've got, you know, your audience, we're very much aligned with wanting to live better, healthier lives. I think the people that listen to you are there for a purpose, because they want to improve their life and their relationships and things like that. So for me, it was like, you know, I've had a lot of one-to-one conversations with individuals, and they've sort of said that it's quite compelling. You should probably share a bit more of that.
You got to write a book.
Yeah, I've had this this imposter syndrome about playing that role, but I guess my hope with being on here today is that even if there's one person in your audience that listens that's had something that they can link to it again, some sort of common thread where they go, wow, like I've been struggling in a certain way. It sounds like you found something. Like I would be more than happy to have a conversation with them. So yeah, if it changes one person's life, that's what it's all about.
Man, that's what we're here for. And don't think, I'm not a coach, I'm not a self-help. Like, it's not about that. This is why these conversations exist. I get to, share people's stories or let them share their stories so people can learn through storytelling. It doesn't have to be a coach that tells you what to do. Just by listening and coming to the solution or coming to the curiosity yourself, I think is far stronger than someone telling you what to do. It's when you listen to somebody else and go, you know what, maybe that'll work for me, and you take it on yourself. Like, that's a sweet spot.
Yeah, when you become self-motivated and hungry to find the answers, I think it's a sweet spot.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure for jumping on Good Humans Podcast.
Thank you, mate. Loved it.
Nailed it. How's that? Hour and 20 minutes.
That's good. Sorry, mate. Waffling a bit.
No, not at all. Normally I'd look at the time and see where we're at. I was like, not surprised, but I was like,